Welcome to Blue Talks.
Have you ever looked into the eyes of someone that has dementia and felt when they were looking at you that you were looking at their old self, even just for a moment, just a flicker of time? Hello, everybody. My name is Jennifer Dawn, and I am excited to share a topic with you today that I'm very passionate about. My topic today is called The Unknown Truth About Dementia. As I said, I'm very passionate about helping people with dementia as well as the caregivers for people with dementia. I am a best-selling author. I am a spiritual medium, speaker, as well as an intuitive business coach. Thank you so much for listening to me today. And thank you so much for Corey and Heidi for inviting me to speak with you today. So I'm going to ask for some participation today. If everybody would be willing to participate. Okay, excellent. Okay, so in the audience, if you are Canadian and you know somebody or have known somebody with dementia, please raise your hand. If you are American and you know somebody or have known somebody with dementia, please raise your hand. Thank you. Dementia, as we know, is actually a worldwide problem. It is actually not isolated to Canada or the US. It is actually an international problem. I'm going to share a couple slides here with you just to give you a little insight in what is happening with Canada and the US. But just so you know, there is actually lots of dementia cases all over the world. So as of January 1st, 2024, in Canada alone, there was over 733,000 people with dementia. Of those 733,000 people, over 400,000 of these people were senior citizens. And 2/3, which is very interesting, 2/3 are actually women that have dementia. The Alzheimer's Society of Canada projects that in the year 2030, over 1 million Canadians will have dementia. That's an alarming number of people. That means that is actually a 65% increase over the total amount of dementia cases in Canada in the year 2020. That's a lot of people. In the US, as of January 2024, there are over 7 million people with dementia. Experts project in the US alone, in the year 2030, there will be over 9 million people with dementia. They also project in the year 2040, there will be over 12 million people with dementia. This is an interesting behind-the-scenes fact about Canada alone. In the year 2020, the cost of care across Canada, it actually cost over $40 billion for dementia care in 2020 alone. $40 billion. The cost of care in the US this year alone is projected to be over $360 billion. That is a lot, as we know. Dementia has had a huge impact on my own life, just like it has impacted every single person in the room here today. Some people are unaware that dementia is actually not limited to just the human species. And you're probably wondering, what do I mean by that? Canine and felines also can have dementia. I actually had a silver lab that had dementia, and I've actually had 2 cats that have had dementia. My grandmother on my mother's side also had dementia. And the story that I'm going to share with you today is about my dad who had dementia. But what makes it unique about my dad's story is what he shared about dementia, which I'm going to share with you a little bit later. So as we had already gone through, we've already gone through the different numbers with both Canada and US. As I said, we didn't even touch worldwide as well. So as I mentioned, dementia has had a huge impact on my personal life. So anybody who has been a caregiver for somebody with dementia, please raise your hand. Thank you. You know how incredibly difficult and challenging it is to be a caregiver for somebody with dementia. I used to have a family doctor who actually said it was the cruelest disease, and I agree with him. It is also known as the long goodbye, because you see the person slowly disappear right in front of you, and there's nothing that you can do about it. So today, I'm going to be sharing the unknown truth about dementia. My dad had the signs of dementia for over 2 decades, but it wasn't actually announced and detected as official dementia until 2017. Often dementia will show signs for 10, 20, 30 years before it actually comes into the spotlight. And that's exactly what happened with my dad. So my dad was actually fluent in over 10 languages. He actually spoke different languages and dialects from all over the world. He loved to really fully immerse himself in different cultural backgrounds. So he would actually pick a destination and he would travel to that destination, and he would be there for 2 months and would fully immerse himself in the culture. Because as he told me, he said, Jennifer, he said, that's the only way you really learn about a culture, is really immerse yourself in with the culture. And he said, I personally think it's physically impossible to do it in 1 week. So that's why he would travel all over the world and go for 2 months at a time. He actually had a great understanding of many languages and dialects of both the written and verbal. So he was also a graphic designer, and in BC, Canada, he's well known and still remembered. He used to do Christmas designs on windows, and I actually had the honor, the privilege, and also the uncomfortable training as well, going with him door to door and doing graphic design, Christmas designs on windows. So it was pretty interesting to see how he would go into these different establishments and he would be able to speak whatever their mother tongue language was. And as a child growing up and witnessing this brilliance of this man who was able to speak almost any language, it was amazing to me. It seemed so incredibly cruel that in 2017, all of that would change. He would never be able to travel again. In the summer, he would wear clothes that were appropriate for winter times. He also lived in a house that was built in the 1980s and said that his house was made in Victorian times and there was no outlets, which was not a true story. He also, unfortunately, the stove became his nemesis, and he would actually put things on the stove because he couldn't figure out how to use the elements anymore. And I slowly watched him disappear, and his personality completely changed. I often tell people it was the unwanted guest that was invited into our family that we never invited. And no matter what we did, we could never get this unwanted guest to leave. So what happened in 2017 is he started to change. As I said, his personality changed. And how he talked to me, I'm his only child, and how he spoke to me was so cruel and hurtful. And I couldn't understand how a person who was my biggest cheerleader, who always told me I could do whatever I wanted. He said if I wanted to be an author, he definitely saw that I could do that. He always cheered me on. And then as soon as 2017 happened, everything changed. This anger started coming out of him, and he started lashing out like he never did before. And then it progressed even further. Then he started telling people distorted truths. He started willingly giving his money to people, including even fortunately somebody that was hooked on hard drugs. He started giving his money to people. And before, he would not do that. He was giving money to strangers and telling me that it was his financial responsibility. I also was his power of attorney and also his executrix. So that made things incredibly challenging when he's spending money willy-nilly and giving it to people that he never would before. Fast forward, in 2019, spring 2019, I received a call from a hospital in BC, Canada. They told me that my father had unfortunately fallen and had a serious injury, and I would have to go to the hospital. I had no idea that that was actually the beginning of the end for my dad. So he would just give you some history about him and how much dementia changed him. He never swore in his life. When he was admitted into the hospital, and he was there for 2 months, he started swearing at all the staff. All these massive behavior changes started. What happened? At the very end of the 2 months, the hospital staff told me that he would be discharged and that he would have to be moved to a home. He was always against about going to a home because, interesting enough, his father also had dementia, and his father was also put in a home. So my dad said he never wanted to be put in a home, and I obviously didn't want to put him in a home. But his care was so great that the staff told me that he would have to be in a home. He was only in that home for 11 days before his passing. As I promised, I shared with you earlier that I would tell you something, the unknown truth about dementia, and that is what I'm going to do today. In those last 11 days with my dad, I had no idea that he was going to not only impact my life once again, but he was also going to impact the lives of others. My dad always loved to teach people. He was passionate about teaching people. I have written a book called Dad's Pennies from Heaven, and I'm very thankful that Hay House, if you're familiar with Hay House Publishing, Hay House has actually picked up my book. And we're going to be releasing it hopefully by the end of this year. But I also believe in divine timing, so it will come out when it's meant to come out. The head of education for Alzheimer's Society of BC actually has written the foreword for my book, which I'm very thankful for. And I'm just going to read a little bit about what happened with my dad in those final days. So the very last week of my dad's life, he had no dementia. No dementia. So for over 2 years, I was not able to have a conversation with my dad. We were not even able to exchange just a couple of sentences. It appeared to me that my father had completely disappeared because of dementia. But in that final week, I had my father back. My mother, myself, and my middle of 3 sons came with me, and we spent the last week with my dad. We had no idea what massive message my dad was about to share with us, and I am truly honored to share my dad's message with you today. So I'm just going to read just a little bit and quote exactly what happened in that room in Vancouver, BC, Canada, the last week of June 2019. Robert awoke and looked deep within his grandson's eyes. Matt's grandfather was about to share some information that, as far as Jennifer knows, no one has ever heard before. Jennifer's father looked at Matt as he explained to him what it was like for him to experience dementia. he started explaining how it really felt for him. Robert said to his grandson, "It's like you're in a prison." Matt was confused and did not understand what his grandfather was trying to share with him. Matt felt, though, that his grandfather was sharing something important. Matt's grandfather continued, "It's like you're in a prison and you don't know what to do." Robert continued sharing with Matt what his experience with dementia was really like for him. Robert said, "I could hear myself say things that I had no control over. It's like having another person in your body. I could hear what I was saying to Jennifer, and I wasn't able to stop it." So my father wanted to share a message, and his message he wanted the world to hear. He was always passionate about people, getting to know people, and he wanted to leave a lasting mark on the world. How different will the world be with dementia care if everybody knew the unknown truth about dementia? If we just pause and think about that for a minute. Across Canada, US, worldwide, how many people not only have dementia, but how many people are impacted by dementia? My dad described that there was 2 people in one body, him, his true self, and then there was the dementia self that was in control of the steering wheel. And so my dad wanted to share that because he knew me well enough. He also said that he told my son Matt that he knew I would write a book, and he was right. And I did. I wanted to share his story, and I want to be able to help people just like my dad did and make a difference. Because if I had known what my dad told me in that last week, if I had known those last 2 years that my dad was really there, that my dad did not disappear like I thought he was. He was inside there hearing everything that was going on, but he was not able to verbalize it because, as he described it, the other person was in control. How different I would have treated those last 2 years alone. I would have visited more. I would have had conversations with him more. I would have been more engaged. And so that is one of my biggest passions, is to help people worldwide that have been impacted by dementia, not to give up on your loved one that has dementia. They are there. They are there. They're present. They're just not able to vocalize. The physical self has been taken over by dementia, but their spirit is still there. They are inside. And I'm so thankful that my dad was able to share that message with me and that I'm able to share it with others worldwide. So with care alone, it is projected that by the end of 2024, and we're halfway through 2024 as we know alone, it is projected by the end of 2024, it will cost the world $1.3 trillion in care. $1.3. That's incredible. But not just the money. Let's think about the emotions, the connections, the relationships. How would the world benefit if they knew the unknown truth about dementia and treated their loved ones differently that have dementia, and also know that their person, their loved one that has dementia is not gone, and whatever they're saying, that is not truly them? It would make such a difference. So the next time you look at somebody who has dementia and you see that moment where they look at you and you swear it's their old self looking at you, I want you to please remember this today and just pause and know when they're looking at you and they seem like their old selves, that really is them. in that moment, they were able to switch and grab the steering wheel. Don't give up on them. So thank you so much, everybody, for listening to my talk today. And I appreciate being here today and being able to speak with you today. Thank you and have a wonderful day.